And I think there's one little formula I believe in so much. Perseverance plus passion plus pride equals win. I've often said pride in a person is ability to persevere, to respect all the competition, but fear none. Dedication and determination. The ability to have the drive and the desire at that crucial moment when you have to perform. You have that, you're going to win.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm. Sam Ravech, alongside myself, Christine Williamson. It's great to be with you here again.
Great to be here. I mean, this college basketball season has zero chill, by the way.
Yeah,
zero chill.
For sure. We love it like that, right?
Yeah.
We love the drama.
So much.
So because of that, we like to start every single show with something that we call What's Trending, just where we look at what's trending in college basketball. And if you're a college basketball fan, you did not miss this. It's the fact that LMU snapped Gonzaga's 76-game home win streak. What does this mean for the Zags? That's a long time.
It means Gonzaga's not as good as they usually are. I mean, that's kind of basically what it means. LMU had not gone to the Kennel and beat Gonzaga since February of 1991. Somebody looked this up, by the way. The top movie in the box office the last time LMU beat Gonzaga in 91 was Home Alone. The original Home Alone. And that was
that's
wild.
Bad.
So,
that's a long time ago. So the fact that they were able to do that is huge. We'll see what happens with the Zags. I mean, I'm sure they're feeling it for sure.
They'll be okay.
Exactly. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. The other thing that you probably didn't miss is that Notre Dame head coach Mike Brey is going to step down at the end of the basketball season. What does this mean, Sam, for the future of Notre Dame basketball?
I think it's a bad thing as well. Mike Brey, for 23 years, was such an outgoing personality. He was a proponent and a person who promoted the game of basketball. He told you what was on his mind, and he led this Notre Dame program to Sweet 16s, and he will end his tenure as the winningest coach in program history on the men's side. I never got to meet Coach Brey, but from everybody that I've heard, we just talked to Fonz, and we will hear from him in the show. He was one of those guys that just is a staple at the program in Notre Dame.
All right, we'll see what happens with the future of Notre Dame basketball. Now, we're going to play a little game. It's called Dish or Dunk. And I want to explain it to you guys so you understand what it means. Dish means like you're dishing it to the side, like you're doing a little high pass, but that means you're getting it out of the way. Dunk is a good thing. It means you're dunking on it. So we're going to put some teams up there and decide whether or not we're dishing and dunking on these teams. We're going to start with UConn, who just lost to Seton Hall, 67-66, right? They're 15-5 on the season. Are you dishing or dunking?
All right, so we're just going to rip the Band-Aid right off here.
Yeah.
Look, growing up in Connecticut with zero professional teams, all we had were the UConn Huskies. Okay. We had Dan Orlovsky slinging it on the gridiron. We had Kemba Walker, and we had the UConn Huskies. That was it. So this UConn team goes out to the Phil Knight Invitational and wins it. They beat Alabama by 20. They beat Iowa State. Alabama's not going to be beat by 20 this year again. They got all the way up to number 2 in the AP poll. And then 2023 hits. And all of a sudden, the UConn Huskies are spiraling. The state of Connecticut is spiraling. All things have seemingly gone down the gutter. They've lost 4 of the last 5. They're averaging 68 points a game in January. That was north of 80 points per game in the non-con. So I am reluctantly dishing on the Huskies.
Okay, I'm also dishing for the same reasons. As you mentioned, they started 14-0. And then just hasn't been great.
I don't know what's going on.
2023. New year, new team. So I'm dishing on them. Let's go to Arizona. Are you dishing on or dunking on this team?
So I was dishing, but I'm on my way to a dunk right now with Arizona for a couple of reasons. I think Arizona has a couple of really bad losses on their resume right now. You look at Utah, Washington State, and Oregon. Arizona is one of the best front courts in the country. Azuolas Tubelis, Umar Ballo, 2 leading scorers on the team right now. Arizona does have 5 quad 1 wins this year, which is still top 5 in the country. I think anybody that has watched the Cats the last couple of weeks would say they have been underperforming, but a massive opportunity today against UCLA.
Okay, you mentioned the fact that you're on the way to a dunk. I'm just going to give them a dunk. They just beat USC 81-66, and this could just be a slump for this team, right? We'll see how they match up against UCLA today at 2 p.m. That, I feel like, if they lose that game and if it's an atrocious game, then I'll dish on them.
Yeah, game of the day.
Exactly. So let's go on to Texas A&M. Dishing or dunking?
Right now, I think it's going to be one of the more interesting bubble stories for Texas A&M. I think they were notoriously one of the biggest snubs of the NCAA tournament last year after going all the way to the SEC title game before eventually losing to Tennessee. They are off to an abysmal start this year in the non-con. They had a 200-plus strength of schedule. All of a sudden, they're 5-0 in SEC play. They're holding SEC teams to 57 points per game. Schedule is not going to be easy coming up. I think I'm going to be dunking on Texas A&M right now.
Okay, I'm also going to dunk because, as you see, they defeated Florida on Wednesday 54-52, and their head coach, Florida's head coach, Todd Golden, said that they're playing like one of the best top 15 teams in the country. So I'm going to take his word for it since he just matched up against them, and I'm going to dunk on them. All right. I do want to mention before we go through this team, we're going to talk a little bit about Alabama, but Darius Miles, a former Alabama player, is one of 2 men charged with capital murder in the shooting death of Jamia Jonee Harris. That was on Sunday morning. He's being held without bond, and a probable cause hearing has been set for February 7th. So he was already out for the season. The team already knew he wouldn't be playing this season. It is a very tough scenario, and the team dealing with that. So we had to mention that before we talk about this Alabama team who has been playing very well this season. So are you dishing and dunking on this team?
Well, first off, yeah, it's just an unimaginable situation for this Alabama team. And for what's going on the basketball court, yes, I'm dunking on them. They're playing incredibly well. But yeah, Alabama goes to Vanderbilt and they win this past Tuesday. But you could see, it was visible after the game, a lot of these Alabama players were crying. I mean, these were men that were weeping, and rightfully so, considering everything that has gone on outside of the basketball arena. But Nate Oates has done a great job at refocusing this team and keeping their minds on basketball. I thought that Vanderbilt head coach Jerry Stackhouse said it best after the game. He said, "Look, this game doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Considering everything that was going on."
Right. Right. I'm going to dunk on this team, too. Even the fact that they were able to go out on Tuesday and play that game and win in the fashion that they were able to do it is amazing. And this team, as I mentioned, has been playing awesome this entire season. So I'm dunking on Alabama. Okay, so we talked a lot last week about Kentucky. Dish
We did.
or dunk?
Look, after I just completely railed on Kentucky last week and was completely wrong, by the way, I'm going to stick. I'm a man of principle, so I'm going to say that I will be dishing on Kentucky, Christine. I'm going to get hammered for that again this week. But here's why. I say Kentucky, yes, big win at Thompson-Boling Arena, as you're seeing right there on Saturday. But they were trailing by 8 to Georgia on Tuesday. That's a Georgia team that's up and coming. Kentucky is just too disjointed on defense right now. They are relying on Oscar Tshiebwe to score 37 points a game like he did against Georgia. They need some help. So I'm dishing right now.
Okay, so I don't know why I said I was dunking on this team. I don't know if I agree with myself, but I can come up with a reason. I mean, as you mentioned, they did just win at Tennessee the other day, and they do have Oscar Tshiebwe, who's one of the best players in the entire country. So I'm hoping that, 2023, new team, new Kentucky team, we'll see exactly what happens. I don't know why I said dunk. Anyways, let's go to Michigan State. Are you dishing or dunking on that team?
Our producer, Shelby, is not going to be happy with me on this one, but I am dishing on Michigan State, despite the fact that they just beat number 24 Rutgers over on Thursday. I'm not saying they're not going to make the NCAA tournament. I think 24 straight trips to the NCAA tournament speaks for itself here. But Sparty has struggled this year. They ranked 10th in the Big Ten in scoring, 9th in field goal percentage, not to mention, Christine, 13th in turnover margin.
Okay, I'm dunking on this team. One of the reasons is because you said our producer Shelby. I'm trying to make her happy today, okay? So I'm going to dunk on them because of that reason. Then also, I am really good friends with Tom Izzo. Not really, but I did take a picture with him on accident at a college football game. I saw that this picture was being taken, and then I asked the guy in the hat if he could give me the picture because I was like, I think I'm in your picture with Tom Izzo. But also, they have possibly Malik Hall may be back for them, which will be huge for them because they won't have all of their players having to play 17 million minutes a game. He'll be able to take some of that off of them. We'll see what exactly happens. He has a foot injury. It's a stress fracture, which is a very tough injury to deal with because those things get very irritated. So we'll see what exactly happens. But I'm going to dunk on Michigan
All
State,
right.
okay? Big Tom Izzo fan. Okay, let's take a quick look at what games we have coming up today. We were talking a little bit earlier, Sam, and one of these games that has to do with me slightly is something that you're looking forward to. Number 17, Miami taking on Duke. It'll be a big one for them, for sure.
Huge game. Right now, Jeremy Roach, at least up until this point, is not going to be playing in this game, leading a captain for Duke. And then Isaiah Wong has just been terrific for Miami this year.
Of course, go Canes.
All right, it's time now. We welcome in College Game Day's very own Laphonso Ellis. Fonz, thanks for joining us. I know you got to hang out with Seth Greenberg in a little bit, so we'll get you out of here in just a second. But let's talk about the transfer portal and just what it has made this college basketball season into. You go to the top 10 scorers in both the Big 12 and the Big 10, the Big East. Over 50% of those top 10 scorers have come via the transfer portal. So how have you seen the transfer portal kind of affect the game of college basketball this season? And just talk about some of those transfers.
Yeah, the impact has been immense, and it's interesting because I thought it would create a trend. If a coach has an opportunity to be able to go out into the transfer portal marketplace and be able to get an experienced player, I think it actually puts a bit of downward pressure on high school players coming in. And so a coach is kind of left with the decision of, should I go get a more experienced player that I can get out of the portal, or should I bring in even a high-level recruit, freshman? Can he help me win? And most coaches have decided to go the other way. A great example, Ricky Council IV, plays for Arkansas. He's absolutely sensational, one of the top 5 scorers in that league. And really, early on in the season, he was carrying Arkansas to many of their victories. And so he was 6th man of the year last year at Wichita State. And oftentimes, it's difficult to make that step up. He's had no problems, and he's been absolutely terrific for the Razorbacks.
You mentioned the fact that coaches can either go to the transfer portal or they can get a high-level recruit and a freshman. Are there any freshmen that you have your eye on or any possible one-and-dones this season?
Brandon Miller for Alabama. I run out of superlatives for this kid because he's amazing. 6'9" guard, great in ball screen situations. You go under, he knocks down the three, shoots about 45% from the three-point line. He's got a pull-up J at the foul line. He gets in the lane, can finish with either hand around the rim, and is a willing passer. In my mind, he's the best freshman in the country, and he'll be a lottery pick in the draft this year.
I wanted to get your thoughts, too, on kind of the cyclical nature of the game of college basketball as well when you talk about the transfers and just how that can accelerate a program's comeback. But just for example, I mean, 2019, you have Texas Tech going to the national championship game, right? And now they're 0-6 in Big 12 play. On the other side of that coin, you got Iowa State, who was 2-22, right, in 2020? And now they're atop the Big 12. So how does the transfer portal help or maybe sometimes actually hurt a program?
Well, it's really about fit. We just talked about Ricky Council, right? Arkansas coming into this season, they need a dynamic wing with some size that can create offense but not get away from their defensive principles. And he's fit into that really, really well. You look over at Virginia, Ben Vanderplas, who transferred in. Now, he didn't put up the big numbers in the middle part of the season because he's coming off the bench. Now, all of a sudden, they're playing him as a small ball 5, and he's found his range. I think he's averaging about 14 points over his last 3 games, so it's about fit. Yes, there are a lot of opportunities to be able to transfer up, but are you going to a place that's a perfect fit for you in your role and a need for you? Vanderplas knew that Virginia needed a big who can actually step out and shoot the basketball, who could defend, went there, and he's played positive dividends for the Cavaliers.
All right, Fonz, we're about halfway through the college basketball season, so we figured it makes sense for us to give out some mid-season awards. As of right now, like this isn't necessarily the end of the season, just right now. We're going to start with Coach of the Year. We're going to have you go first. Who do you think at this moment in the season would be Coach of the Year?
I tend to reward winning, and so it's Nate Oates with the Alabama Crimson Tide. I already talked about Brandon Miller. But it's not easy to be one of the best teams in the country and have a legit chance to win a national title when you're coaching 3 freshmen. So we talked about Brandon Miller. Now you talk about Noah Clowney, 6'10", long arms, can knock down the 3, play with his back to the basket, excellent rebounder, floor runner, can rebound the basketball. And you talk about the transfer portal. How about Mark Sears, who transferred over from Ohio, went to an area where they have a need for him, left-handed, can knock down the three, get in the lane, make plays. And then you got a kid, Javon Quinterly, who's coming off the bench for them, coming back from a major injury. And I look for those guys. Who's that guy on the bench when all of a sudden you're trying to run all your offense and you get stuck? Who can make a play? Alabama's got 4 of them. Nate Oates, to this point of the year, is my coach of the year.
Yeah, I'm going with Nate Oates as well, Christine. Also, when you look back to last year, this was an Alabama team that finished the year not so great, right? They lost their last 4 games of the season. A first-round exit in the SEC tournament, first-round exit in the NCAA tournament to Notre Dame. Nate Oates goes out, brings in 8 new players, 4 transfers, 4 freshmen. Of course, they have a lot of talent. But what makes a coach great is your ability to coach that talent, and I think Nate Oates has done that.
All right, so I'm going to say,
what you got?
Because I try not to be a homer in any way.
Don't be a homer.
I did cover the Big 12 for a minute, and so whichever teams are at the top of the Big 12, I'm very proud of that. Like to see that. I'm going to go Jerome Tang at Kansas State because
that's a good one.
I mean, obviously, you saw the Sunflower Showdown, and I loved his speech after it to the fans that stormed the field, where he was like, "By the way, you guys, just so you know, you should expect this from us because he's just taken this program to another level." Obviously, his first season, he's 8-1, and I just feel like this team can really not only take over the Big 12, but also really make a storm in the entirety of NCAA basketball.
Yeah.
All right, next for our midseason awards, we have Player of the Year. Who do you have for that, Fonz?
I have the biggest, most dominant player in the country, and that's Purdue's Zach Edey. 7'4", 295 pounds, absolutely unstoppable. Top 10 in scoring, top 3 in the country, actually top 2 in the country in rebounding, and he's been the centerpiece of that surge for Purdue, who's got a legitimate chance to get to a Final Four. He's my Player of the Year.
Yeah, Fonz, you were just saying you were running out of superlatives to talk about Brandon Miller.
Yes.
So I'm going to go for him as Player of the Year, not only Freshman of the Year, but Player of the Year. When you talk about a player who, yes, is a little bit older for a freshman. He's 20 years old, right?
Right.
But 30 and 10 against Vandy on Tuesday, 4th double-double of the season. Miller is one of 10 Division I players, the only player in the SEC, and the only freshman in the country that has scored 360 points and recorded 150 rebounds. So I'm going B. Mills.
And he's the leading scorer in the SEC as a freshman. That's crazy.
Unreal.
Wild. Okay, so I'm going to do what you did, Fonz. I'm saying Zach Edey. He's a friend of the show, by the way. We have him on the show a little bit later, so we can talk to him today. That's the main reason I chose him. No, I'm just kidding. As you mentioned,
Tell him I said hello.
Exactly. I will. And what he's been doing for Purdue, obviously, one of the reasons that Purdue is on the map and where they are right now. Okay, next up, we have Sixth Man of the Year. Fonz, who do you have for that?
Sir Jabari Rice of Texas. Coming off the bench for them, he gives them another dynamic scorer. He can knock down a 3, play in the mid-range. He's having double figures coming off the bench. He can get to the rack, finish with either hand. You talk about a guy looking for a fit. Found Texas. They needed a guy to be able to come off the bench to give them instant offense. So Jabari Rice has done just that. He's my Sixth Man of the Year to this point.
Yeah, Christine, we were just talking about Kansas State on Tuesday, which, by the way, might be one of the best games we have seen so far this year, I think.
Yeah.
Epic.
And the biggest difference in that game was that Kansas State had Desi Sills and Kansas didn't.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Desi Sills, dropped 24 points coming off the bench in that game in 34 minutes. This is a guy that also played on an Arkansas team that went to the Elite Eight.
Yes.
And part of being a Sixth Man of the Year is being comfortable and being accepting of that role coming off the bench, and Desi Sills has done that.
Yeah, he had 14 points in the first half. I'm going with Desi Sills. Also because he was an absolute bucket in the Sunflower Showdown. As you mentioned, Sam, this is one of the best games that we've seen all season. So I was watching that and I was like, Desi Sills is actually an actual bucket. So I had to go with him.
Collusion.
Okay, and we have finally Comeback Player of the Year. Who do you have for that, Vaughn?
It's not even close. It's Keontae Johnson of Kansas State. We're talking about a guy 2 years ago, collapsed on the floor at Florida. All of us were literally, wherever you were watching the game, I mean, your heart just sank. We didn't know if he would even be able to live another day, not to mention be able to play. Dude at Kansas State I thought he was really good at Florida. He's taking it to another level. Third leading scorer in the Big 12. His ability to be able to get in the lane, make plays. You can play him as a post. He's comfortable playing with his back to the basket. Shoots over 40% from the three-point line. Keontae Johnson is the comeback player of the year, and it's not even close. No collusion by you two.
No, we are all going to be in agreement on this one. Keontae Johnson, it's hard to think of a better player for this spot. And when you think about it, actually, head coach Jerome Tang dealt with a similar situation when he was at Baylor, right? Coach Tang, Coach Scott Drew took a chance on Alabama commit Jared Butler, brought him in, a reported heart issue, and of course we know what happened there. It took him to a national championship. So, like you said, Fonz, wasn't even a guarantee that he was going to be living. Now he's playing and he's running the show.
Yeah, obviously, as you mentioned, we all are hot on Keontae Johnson for comeback player of the year. And the fact that he's so comfortable playing, as you mentioned, Sam, didn't even know if he would be living. And the fact that he's on the court playing at the level that he is right now is incredible. So it's been great to watch him. And honestly, comeback player of the year at the midseason point, but also at the end of the season. Also.
No question.
We wouldn't argue that.
He was the go-to guy late in that game against Kansas. Incredible.
Right. Fonz, always great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Fonz.
Thanks for having me.
It's the SEC Big 12 Challenge. Oh, my goodness!
Back and forth we go.
There's no question. We got some ballers here.
This is one of those chances to make a statement. Do you have the courage?
You won't see a better play today.
Got it! We got a ball game.
It's now time for What If, covered by State Farm. Let's go back 13 years ago to the 2010 National Championship. That'll make you feel old, 13 years ago. Butler versus Duke. The Blue Devils won their 4th national championship that night. However, it was a win that wasn't secure until after the buzzer sounded when Gordon Hayward's half-court three-point heave for the win just barely missed to leave Tiny Butler one cruel basket short of the Hollywood ending. So, Sam, the question, what if Gordon Hayward did make that shot?
A lot of things would have changed, Christine. I think, first off, this was probably one of the more exciting national title games that we had in the last 20 years, right? I think you can only go 2003 Syracuse, Kansas, and probably 2008 Kansas, Memphis as the only other two competing ones. This was an amazing, amazing national title game. And a lot of people remember the free throw, I think, and a lot of people will also remember that Gordon Hayward had a really good look before that, had a baseline jumper that would have given them a lead with about 3 seconds left, but instead missed that jumper. Of course, the foul led to the free throw and then the half-court heave. But sure, I mean, you look at Duke, Coach K, 4 titles instead of 5. Who knows? Maybe Brad Stevens doesn't go to the NBA after winning a national title. You have to remember, too, this Butler team was good the year before and the year after as well. Reportedly, UCLA actually offered Brad Stevens like $2.5 million to go to Hollywood and coach UCLA after they lost in the national title game. Of course, he went to the NBA, had a great career with the Celtics. But, a lot of what-ifs, a lot of what could have happened.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward almost changed the hands of time if he would have made that shot. It would have been very interesting. Another guy that's hoping to change history, this one at Purdue, is Zach Edey.
Zach Edey flexing his muscles there. Smith lobs it for Edey to smash.
It's an automatic bucket for Zach Edey.
Edey redirects it. How about that?
He is going to be dunking that thing all night.
We now welcome in the 7'4" Purdue, Zach Edey. I mean, people are saying that you should be player of the year. We talked to Fonz earlier and he said that. So welcome. We're excited to have you here. I know you just woke up. You're cleaning crust out of your eye, but thank you so much for joining us. I like to stalk people on the gram to kind of figure out what I want to talk to them about. And I saw on your last post, the caption said, hate it or love it, the underdog's on top. Now that's a rap lyric from the game. Shout out to him. It's a great song. I'm surprised you actually know that. You're only 20 years old. But I want to ask you, because obviously Purdue wasn't in the preseason polls, right? Do you guys still have that underdog mentality when you guys have now proven that you're one of the top teams in the country?
Definitely. I mean, our team kind of like, we heard it all in the offseason. We heard this is going to be a down year. It's going to be a good year if we make the tournament. We felt like we had a way better roster than people gave us credit for, and people still give us credit for. Like we still have that underdog mentality. We still kind of just want to see how far we can take it, see how far we can go, and it's just this whole season has been a blessing. It's just been a great time.
Zach, I know last year foul trouble was an issue at times. I know you only, were averaging 19 minutes or so. Your usage rate, of course, is up through the roof, north of 32 minutes a game, and your fouls are down. So what have you kind of been working on, at least in the offseason, with your footwork to try and stay on the court and be there for your team later in games when they need you?
Yeah, just being smart, really. Early in the game, sometimes avoiding those, maybe like trying to go up and make a play on a block that I might not be in great position for. Avoiding kind of picking up those early fouls that'll put me on the bench. I know my team really needs me on the floor, so I really kind of taking responsibility for that, making sure that I'm not stuck on the bench with foul trouble and benching myself. And then just kind of being smart and playing physical, but just not doing anything kind of crazy.
Okay, Zach, you're from Canada, but I understand your mother, Julia, spends the basketball season in West Lafayette with you and your team. She cooks meals for you guys. I mean, I feel like a lot of people would not want their mom to come to college with them, but I feel like she has like a nice setup there. How was it like having your mom in West Lafayette?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Obviously, like a piece of home is always here for me. It's been here for me since freshman year. When you say like, oh, she's out here living, we'll have meals and stuff, but it's not like I'm hanging out with her like every day. Like, it's, I need my own space for sure.
Right.
But it's nice to be able to go over there, hang out. She has the dog too, so I hang out with the dog. Bring the team over. We'll play some euchre, we'll play some cards, play some poker, whatever. Have a nice home cooked meal, and then really kind of recharge.
Okay, you mentioned home cooked meals. What does your mom cook for you guys?
Whatever. She's a great cook. I think last time we had like pork chops. I usually try to throw in some like those cheap carbs like pasta or rice because there's a lot of people, obviously. She's not a rookie to this. She knows kind of how to fill up a table. But yeah, it's just usually some type of carb, some type of vegetable, some type of meat. But she can do everything. She usually have like a nice little dessert in there. Like last time we had like fresh waffles with ice cream in the middle. That was high level, yeah.
Wow, I need to come visit. That sounds amazing.
Christine's booking the next trip to West Lafayette.
I will be there soon.
Zach, your head coach, Matt Painter, has done a great job at kind of building the big men and building around the big men. What has attracted you to this program and specifically Matt Painter and the way that he kind of works with the guys that play with their back to the basket?
Yeah, really just his history. A lot of coaches, they can say like, oh, we had a 7-footer 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and this is how we used him. But the game's changed so much, and he's kind of had a 7-footer on his roster throughout that entire change. Right. He knows how to utilize them right now. He's kind of gone through it, gone through some of those maybe learning curves and some of those growing pains that you have when coaching someone of my size. He knows, he understands everything. He'll tell me some certain things in practice that even I don't really know, and like how to use my body properly, how to get positioned, how to be more accurate at my jump hook, stuff like that. And he's like a 6-foot guard telling me, so it's like it's kind of funny sometimes when he's like the one mentoring me. Obviously, there's Coach Brantley, he's great. He helps me out a ton, but Coach Payne helped me out too. And it's kind of funny when you really think of kind of the size and how he played is helping me.
So we've talked ad nauseum at this point about how tall you are. You're 7'4", and we know that has a lot of advantages on the basketball court, of course, right? But I would imagine that it has a lot of disadvantages in regular life because most people aren't 7'4". So we have a list of things here that we're going to ask you whether or not this impacts you in any way. The first one, do your feet hang off of a hotel bed?
Definitely. I've had to figure out a workaround. Sometimes like I sleep sideways on the bed because obviously that's longer, and sometimes I'll like pull the bed out like a foot and just like stick a bunch of pillows in there to add like another like little foot to the bed. I definitely have to find workarounds because hotel beds are brutal.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine that.
How about driving a car? Like, do you have to go all the way back? And did you need to make adjustments with the driver's seat or no?
Yeah, there's definitely like only like certain cars I can drive. Some cars I have to kind of cram myself into the passenger seat because I can't fit in the driver's seat. But kind of figuring it out has been tough. So I only recently learned how to drive, actually, because I've been in America for so long. I was trying to get my license in Canada, but I never had any time, so I just figured recently I started to get my in America. Definitely figuring out how to fit in that driver's seat stuff.
Okay, so then what is it like? What kind of Ubers do you have to order? Do you get a regular Uber, or do you get like you know how they have the XL?
The cheapest one.
So you'll just cram your way into whatever Uber pulls up. That makes sense. What about a ladder? Do you use ladders when you need to like put up things? No, because like what kind of ladder is going to take you even higher than that, right?
Yeah. No, I don't think I've used a ladder in ages.
that makes sense.
How about Ubers? Like I know we were talking about Ubers, getting in the Ubers, but is there a friend's car that you just can't fit in, or a teammate's car that you can't sit in the driver's seat or the passenger seat in?
Nah, I've been doing this for a while. I can usually kind of cram myself some way or somehow into most cars. Some are definitely tougher. Sometimes you have to like open like the sunroof a little bit, so my head can stick out. A little top of my head can stick out, but
that would
there's definitely work.
Can you imagine driving around West Lafayette and you see Zach Edey?
Absolutely amazing to see just the top of your head sticking out of the sunroof. You guys obviously travel a lot. What's like your airplane setup?
Usually we'll all have like one aisle to myself, and I kind of I'll put like my pillows on the wall, and then I'll just lie down straight. That's kind of what I've been doing since freshman year.
Okay, well, I mean, life as a 7'4" sounds a little complicated, but I mean, you're doing it all on the basketball court, so it works out. I feel like it evens itself out. Thank you so much, Zach, for waking up this morning and hanging out with us.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you for having me.
All right, here's a look at all of the games, the notable games at least, that we're excited about watching today. Of course, tune in specifically to that Miami Duke one. Which one are you looking at that you're excited about?
TCU just coming off a loss to West Virginia, by the way. Look out, Texas. West Virginia just beat TCU. UCLA's won 14 straight. That's a huge one.
Will be a good one. They're taking on Arizona. We'll see how they are able to do. Okay, guys, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for watching Countdown to Game Day, covered by State Farm. We'll see you guys next week.
Figure it out, UConn. Good grief.
I know, seriously. Please.